Welcome back, family. To everyone already subscribed to Expose Cheaters by NDU Tale, thank you. Your time, your trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below, so we can learn together. Settle in. The truth and the twist are coming. Let's get into it. After 12 years of marriage in Prince George's County, Maryland, Malcolm Carter was forced out of his own home by his wife, Danielle, who claimed he was just a phase. Homeless, isolated, and betrayed, Malcolm endured months of emotional pain, curfewed visits with his kids, and cold silences from friends and family. But while Danielle reveled in her victory, Malcolm quietly rebuilt his life, improving his finances, stabilizing his career, and regaining control over what mattered most: his agency, independence, and dignity. This is a story of betrayal, survival, and the power of patience. Watch as Malcolm's quiet perseverance turns the tables in a dramatic, emotionally charged homecoming that she never saw coming. White heavy checkmark, don't miss the ending. Hit like, subscribe, and comment if you've ever been underestimated. Keywords: Black marriage drama, cheating spouse story, betrayal and revenge, emotional storytelling, marriage betrayal YouTube, realistic karma story, Patrick Carter story, quiet comeback, family drama, true life relationship story. The cruelest thing my wife did was force me out of my own home like I was nothing. Here's how it happened. We were married 12 years in Prince George's County, Maryland, raising 2 kids, paying a mortgage, building routines. One evening, she stood by the door, arms crossed, and said I needed to leave tonight. No argument, no discussion. Her sister watched from the couch. My keys were taken. My phone buzzed with friends choosing silence. I packed trash bags while my children avoided my eyes. She never raised her voice. That calm hurt most, and still does today quietly. I slept in my car outside a Walmart in Bowie, Maryland, because I couldn't think straight enough to call anyone. Cold air pressed through cracked windows. I replayed her words: phase, replaceable, temporary. At dawn, I washed my face in a gas station bathroom, then drove to work pretending nothing happened. My co-workers noticed my clothes wrinkled, my silence loud. When I texted her asking to see the kids, she replied through her sister. No explanation, no empathy, just instructions. Every message reminded me I was suddenly homeless, married on paper, erased in practice. Nobody asked why or cared anymore. My wife, Danielle, didn't cry when I left. She didn't flinch when our son asked why Daddy wasn't home. She told everyone I needed space, that I was unstable. Her mother agreed loudly. Her friends blocked me. I lost more than a house. I lost my name. Bills I used to pay were suddenly mine alone, plus child support demands arriving before explanations. I worked overtime nights, sleeping in break rooms, saving receipts, counting coins. Every sacrifice I made before became proof I was disposable now, convenient to discard. No remorse followed, only efficiency. They moved on without hesitation ever. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted and felt completely erased, hit subscribe right now. Stories like this don't start strong, they end strong. The nights were the worst. I'd park near the Anacostia River, watching water move while my life stayed stuck. I scrolled old photos, birthdays, cookouts, vacations at Virginia Beach, wondering when I stopped matching. Danielle never checked on me. She sent schedules instead, times I could pick up the kids from her driveway without stepping inside. I stood on sidewalks holding backpacks, feeling like a visitor in my own family. My children hugged me fast, scared to linger. That fear did something permanent to me. Quietly, I learned pain could be organized, scheduled, and enforced by people who smiled outwardly. I tried reasoning with her once, standing across the street while rain soaked my jacket. I asked what I'd done wrong. She shrugged, said she'd outgrown me, said I was just a phase. No anger, no apology. Her calm felt rehearsed. The man she was seeing waited inside, lights on, watching through blinds. That image burned. I walked away shaking, knowing I'd been replaced before I was removed. From that moment, survival replaced hope. I stopped asking questions and started documenting everything quietly, patiently, alone. Nobody warned me fairness was optional in love, especially when power shifts suddenly between spouses. Friends I trusted faded fast. Game night brothers stopped answering calls. Church folks offered prayers but no couches. My own cousin said Danielle sounded reasonable. Reasonable became the word used to justify everything. I learned how isolation compounds grief. Every rejection echoed the first door closing. I ate cheap meals, showered at gyms, memorized safe parking spots across D.C. The city kept moving while I shrank. Still, something hardened inside me. I began tracking expenses, rebuilding credit, and studying quiet exits. I didn't want revenge. I wanted control again. Peace requires leverage, patience, and discipline. I committed to all three daily. Danielle showed no remorse as months passed. She filed paperwork efficiently, corrected me when I misspelled her attorney's name, and smiled during exchanges. Her family treated me like a lesson learned. The kids repeated phrases I didn't teach them. I swallowed every insult because reacting only fed the story about me. Inside, I mourned the man I'd been. Outside, I stayed polite. I learned the difference between dignity and silence. One protects you. The other just delays pain. I practiced choosing the first, even when it hurt deeply. That choice cost sleep, appetite, and comfort, but preserved my core intact. Winter hit hard. Heating my car drained money I didn't have. I worked through colds, smiling for customers in Arlington, Virginia, while my hands shook. Danielle upgraded furniture. Social media showed her thriving. I blocked it all. Comparison was poison. I focused on systems, automatic savings, secure cards, extra certifications at night. Progress was invisible but real. Nobody clapped. Nobody noticed. That anonymity became fuel. I stopped explaining myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. Each small win stitched me together, slowly, quietly, without witnesses. I trusted the process over praise and spectacle, because survival demanded results, not validation ever again. By spring, I had routines, early workouts, late study sessions, weekends with my kids in borrowed spaces. Danielle controlled the house, but I controlled my habits. That difference mattered. I stopped feeling like a victim and more like a project. Pain became data. Every slight taught me leverage, timing, restraint. I listened more than I spoke. When people underestimated me, I thanked them silently. The humiliation sharpened my focus. I didn't dream about confronting her. I dreamed about never needing her approval again. That dream felt attainable. I kept plans private, disciplined, and boring until boring work delivered freedom quietly. I didn't know then how it would end. I only knew endurance was my weapon. Danielle believed forcing me out erased me. She believed calm cruelty carried no consequences. I let her believe it. While she settled into comfort, I built capacity. While she dismissed me as a phase, I became permanent to myself. Nothing about my rebuilding was dramatic. It was spreadsheets, alarms, restraint, and long waits. But momentum had shifted. The door she closed created a hallway I kept walking down. By the time she'd open another door, I'd be ready, prepared, patient, and done explaining myself fully. By summer, I stopped feeling homeless and started feeling temporary. That distinction mattered. I rented a small room in Southeast D.C., nothing fancy, just quiet and mine. A bed, a desk, and a lock I controlled. I still wasn't allowed inside the old house. Danielle enforced exchanges curbside like policy. She never asked how I was doing. She never slipped. The man she chose replaced presence, not responsibility. I watched from a distance as cracks formed, bills went unpaid, excuses multiplied. Still, she acted untouchable. I kept my head down, stacking progress, letting her underestimate me. That mistake would cost her later. At work, my consistency started showing. While others complained, I volunteered. While they left early, I stayed. Promotions weren't announced. Responsibilities simply increased. I accepted everything quietly. No one knew my motivation. Pain sharpened my discipline. I tracked every dollar, paid off collections, and repaired my credit line by line. Nights were still lonely, but purpose filled the space. Danielle assumed I was struggling, barely surviving. She told mutual acquaintances I'd fallen off. I didn't correct her. Reputation meant nothing compared to trajectory. I learned that people comfortable with hurting you rarely imagine you improving beyond them. That blind spot is powerful leverage when used patiently. My children noticed changes before anyone else. I was calmer, more present during our limited time. No bitterness leaked out. I listened. We cooked together in borrowed kitchens, laughed in parks, shared small victories. Danielle couldn't take that from me. She tried, though. She limited calls, rearranged schedules, and reminded them who had the house. I responded with consistency, never emotion. Courts reward patterns. So does life. Every visit, every payment, every calm interaction became evidence. I wasn't rebuilding to punish her. I was rebuilding so no one could ever remove me from my own life again without resistance or consequence. That resolve anchored everything. Danielle's confidence never cracked publicly. She hosted gatherings, posted smiling photos, and drove newer cars. Privately, notices arrived. Late fees stacked. The man she chose contributed opinions, not money. I heard rumors, but ignored them. Interfering would expose my hand. Instead, I studied. I learned how mortgages worked, how liens move, how debt traveled quietly. Knowledge replaced fear. While she spent, I prepared. While she dismissed me, I documented. There was no revenge fantasy, only timing. I understood something essential then. Karma doesn't rush. It waits until arrogance finishes setting the table. I stayed patient. Knowing rushed justice often collapses on itself before delivering satisfaction. One evening, Danielle called unexpectedly, not to apologize, to complain. She accused me of doing better than expected, like it was a betrayal. I listened silently. Her irritation confirmed progress. She still saw me as a phase, but phases aren't supposed to stabilize. That bothered her. After the call, I smiled for the first time in months, not because she was struggling, but because my independence registered. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was responding. That shift is subtle but seismic. People who rely on your pain lose footing when you stop supplying it. I slept deeply that night, rested by the knowledge that my life was no longer defined by her approval or rejection. Fall arrived, bringing clarity. My credit score crossed a line that opened doors. I didn't rush through them. I waited. I consulted professionals quietly, paid for advice instead of validation. Every move was deliberate. Danielle remained unaware, busy maintaining appearances. She still forced exchanges outside. She still spoke through attorneys. She still never showed remorse. That consistency confirmed her character. I stopped wondering why she changed. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I had changed permanently. I was no longer begging to be chosen. I was choosing myself daily. That mindset attracted opportunities without announcing itself. Stability became magnetic. I understood then that real power doesn't explain itself. It just arrives prepared. The kids sense momentum. They ask fewer worried questions. They relaxed. That alone made every sacrifice worth it. Danielle noticed too. She tightened control, rescheduled visits last minute, tested boundaries. I documented calmly. No arguments. No outbursts. Her lack of remorse became predictable. Predictability simplifies strategy. By winter, I had leverage she didn't know existed. Legal, financial, procedural leverage. Nothing illegal. Nothing flashy. Just alignment. I wasn't plotting against her. I was positioning for myself. That distinction kept my conscience clean. When the time came, I would need to raise my voice. Paperwork would speak fluently on my behalf. Silence had trained me well. During the holidays, Danielle hosted loudly while I worked quietly. I sent gift through mail, wrapped neatly, no notes. She mocked that too. I ignored it. My world had shrunk intentionally. Fewer opinions, more focus. I spent evenings reviewing documents, rehearsing conversations I'd never have. Preparation calmed me. I realized something freeing. I didn't need her to understand my growth. I only needed institutions to recognize it. Courts, banks, employers. Those systems reward consistency, not charm. Danielle relied on charm. I relied on records. That difference widened daily. While she performed stability, I built it. Eventually, performance ends when the lights cut off. Structures remain when tested. Before you keep listening, tap the like button if you believe patience beats revenge. Because what happens next is exactly why staying quiet sometimes wins. One night, parked outside my room, I looked back at the man sleeping in his car months earlier. I felt compassion, not shame. That version survived, so this one could exist. Danielle never acknowledged the damage she caused. She didn't have to. Life was already balancing quietly. I wasn't waiting for justice. I was living it. My patience wasn't passive. It was strategic. I learned endurance isn't weakness. It's deferred strength. People confuse silence with surrender. They mistake calm for defeat. I let them. Every underestimated step made. The eventual shift cleaner. I wasn't disappearing. I was repositioning beyond their reach. That realization grounded me fully. By the end of the year, everything aligned. My finances stabilized. My confidence returned without arrogance. Danielle still believed she'd won simply by removing me. She never checked behind her. She never imagined I'd circle back differently. I didn't announce milestones. I didn't seek validation. I waited. Timing matters more than truth. When consequences arrive too early, people blame luck. When they arrive late, they call it fate. I preferred the second. I reviewed my plan one final time, closed my laptop, and slept peacefully. The door she slammed months ago was about to open again, but not for reconciliation, for reckoning. Quiet, legal, undeniable. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing reports at work. Danielle's number flashed, then disappeared. She didn't leave a message. 10 minutes later, her attorney emailed mine, requesting a discussion regarding property matters. I didn't respond immediately. I finished my workday, went to the gym, cooked dinner, and slept. Urgency is a tool people use when control slips. I no longer reacted to it. When I finally replied, I agreed to a meeting the following week. No emotion, no questions, just confirmation. Preparation turns chaos into paperwork. I'd waited months for alignment like this. Now that it arrived, I stayed calm, steady, and precise. Danielle assumed the house was untouchable because it had always been. She didn't realize unpaid balances echo loudly in financial systems. While she focused on appearances, notices accumulated. I'd learned how debt transfers, how silence creates openings. Through legal channels, I positioned myself without confrontation. No threats, no drama, just steps. The professionals I worked with didn't care about our history. They cared about numbers. Those numbers favored me now. Danielle's confidence depended on ignorance. Mine depended on preparation. That difference felt heavy and grounding. I wasn't excited. I was resolved. Winning quietly requires emotional discipline. I practiced it daily, reminding myself that restraint now would protect my future later. The meeting took place downtown in Silver Spring. Danielle arrived confident, dressed sharply, still treating me like an inconvenience. She spoke first, outlining demands, corrected me when I spoke, never once acknowledging the damage she'd caused. No remorse surfaced. Her attorney slid papers forward, expecting compliance. I listened carefully, then passed my documents across the table. The room shifted. Questions replaced assumptions. Danielle's smile tightened. For the first time, she looked unsure. I said nothing extra. Silence does more work than speeches. I watched comprehension spread slowly, painfully. This wasn't revenge. This was the consequence. I remained calm, hands folded, letting the math explain what words never could. Danielle laughed nervously, saying there must be a mistake. She blamed banks, timing, misunderstandings. No apology followed, no accountability, just deflection. Her attorney asked for a recess. I agreed. In the hallway, I stared at a blank wall, breathing evenly. I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure approaching. When they returned, The tone had changed. Options replaced demands. Deadlines appeared. Danielle avoided my eyes. The power dynamic corrected itself without theatrics. I realized then that suffering had trained me for this moment. I didn't need to gloat. I needed to stay steady. People reveal their character most clearly when consequences arrive without warning. Danielle revealed hers fully. Weeks later, notices escalated. The house Danielle forced me out of was no longer secure. She scrambled, borrowing, negotiating, blaming everyone but herself. She never reached out to apologize. She only asked what I wanted. That question mattered. I wanted stability for my children. I wanted fairness. I wanted peace. I followed procedures carefully. No shortcuts. No spite. When the final paperwork cleared, I didn't celebrate. I sat quietly, absorbing the weight of reversal. The same walls that once rejected me were now silent, neutral, governed by law rather than emotion. I hadn't reclaimed the past. I'd secured the future. That distinction protected my conscience and my sanity. Danielle opened the door expecting help. Instead, she saw the process. Inspectors. Timelines. Reality. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She accused me of betrayal, of plotting. I listened briefly, then disengaged. I'd learned not to argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. The children were protected legally, emotionally, and structurally. That mattered most. I moved through the house methodically, not reclaiming memories, just confirming facts. Every room felt smaller than I remembered. Power illusions collapsed quickly once removed. Danielle's confidence evaporated when systems replaced sentiment. I didn't enjoy her discomfort. I respected the balance restoring itself. Karma doesn't shout. It arrives with documentation, deadlines, and no room for negotiation. I didn't move back in immediately. That surprised her. Control wasn't my goal. Security was. I ensured the children's routines stayed stable. I communicated through proper channels. Danielle never softened. She never admitted fault. She never expressed regret. Some people mistake remorse for weakness. She chose pride instead. Pride is expensive. I watched quietly as the consequences unfolded predictably. My life, meanwhile, continued improving. Promotions solidified. Savings grew. Stress diminished. I slept better than I had in years. The absence of chaos felt luxurious. I realized success doesn't always feel like joy. Sometimes it feels like relief. Relief that the worst is over. Relief that endurance paid off. Relief that silence finally spoke loudly enough. Friends who disappeared reappeared cautiously. I kept my distance, not out of bitterness, but wisdom. Access is earned, not automatic. I rebuilt selectively. My circle stayed small intentionally. Danielle's narrative unraveled without my input. Truth doesn't require defense forever. Eventually, it stands on its own. I focus on my children, my work, and my health. No social media posts announce milestones. No speeches reframe the past. I lived forward. The man I'd become didn't need witnesses. Private success tastes different. It's quieter, heavier, more satisfying. I understood then that survival had transformed into sovereignty. No one could remove me again without facing prepared resistance. That knowledge settled deep, permanent, unshakable. The house, once a symbol of loss, became neutral ground. I renovated slowly, intentionally, not to impress, but to heal. New paint, new routines, new memories. The children laughed again without looking over their shoulders. Danielle moved on elsewhere, still unremorseful, still convinced she was right. I stopped checking. Closure doesn't require agreement. It requires acceptance. I accepted who she was. I accepted what I'd endured. Most importantly, I accepted who I'd become. That acceptance freed me. The phase she dismissed had evolved into permanence. Not in her life, but in mine. I didn't win by taking something from her. I won by never needing her again. The final realization came quietly one evening, sitting alone in the living room. No anger, no pride, just calm. I'd survived betrayal, homelessness, isolation, and erasure without losing myself. Danielle never apologized. Karma didn't ask her to. It simply rearranged reality until effort mattered more than arrogance. I didn't announce victory. I lived it. Stable income, present fatherhood, peaceful nights. That's the ending people rarely see because it's not loud, but it's real. Being forced out taught me ownership can't be given. It must be built, defended, and understood deeply. When she said I was just a phase, she was right. I ended. Something stronger replaced me. The months after everything settled felt strangely quiet. No emergencies. No court emails. No last-minute schedule changes. Silence returned, but this time it didn't hurt. It healed. I woke up early, made coffee, and sat with my thoughts without fear. That used to be impossible. Trauma keeps you alert, waiting for impact. Peace retrains your nervous system slowly. I didn't rush it. I allowed calm to feel unfamiliar until it became normal. Danielle never reached out again except through required channels. She didn't soften. She didn't reflect. Some people never do. I stopped expecting transformation from those who benefit from denial. My growth no longer depended on her awareness or acknowledgement. Work stabilized into confidence. I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I chose projects carefully, protected my time, and declined chaos. That discipline spilled into everything else. My health improved. I slept 8 hours. I cooked real meals. I stopped grinding as punishment and started building as intended. The difference mattered. The old version of me believed suffering proved love. The new version understood consistency proves respect. Danielle once weaponized my patience. Now it protected me. I no longer explained my choices. I executed them. That's what maturity looks like when pain educates instead of destroys. Quiet growth doesn't ask for witnesses. It just compounds daily until results become unavoidable. The kids thrived most. Their shoulders relaxed. Their laughter lasted longer. They stopped asking if everything was okay. Children sense safety long before adults articulate it. I focused on presence, not compensation. No grand gestures, just reliability. Danielle remained distant, transactional, unchanged. I accepted that too. Co-parenting doesn't require harmony, only consistency. I stopped wishing she'd see what she lost. That wish still tied me to her perception. Letting it go felt like exhaling after years underwater. I realized I didn't need validation from someone who benefited from my erasure. My children's peace was enough. My own stability was enough. Anything beyond that was noise I no longer entertained. Occasionally, memories surfaced uninvited. That night I packed trash bags. The first night in my car. The cold mornings pretending nothing was wrong. I didn't suppress those memories. I reframed them. They became reminders of capacity. Proof I could survive sudden loss and still rebuild without becoming cruel. Danielle's lack of remorse once haunted me. Now it clarified everything. Her inability to self-reflect wasn't my failure. It was her limit. Understanding that freed me from resentment. People don't always change. Sometimes they simply reveal. I stopped personalizing her choices. That shift returned energy I didn't know I was still spending. Healing isn't forgetting. It's releasing responsibility for someone else's character. I didn't date immediately. I learned to sit with solitude without filling it. Loneliness and aloneness aren't the same. One drains you. The other restores you. I chose restoration. I rebuilt the standards quietly. Honesty, accountability, emotional literacy. No rush, no pressure. I trusted timing again, but differently. Not blindly, intentionally. Danielle once believed urgency gave her power. I learned patience gives you options. That lesson reshaped everything. I moved deliberately, investing in myself before offering access to anyone else. That discipline protected my peace. The version of me who begged for love wouldn't recognize a man who now chooses alignment over attachment. That evolution felt earned, not accidental. Years from now, Danielle may still believe her story. That she was right. That forcing me out was necessary. That I was temporary. I don't need to correct it. Truth doesn't require agreement to function. Consequences already adjusted the narrative quietly. I regained stability without public redemption arcs. No one clapped. No one apologized on her behalf. Life simply continued. That's how most justice arrives. Undramatic, procedural, final. I didn't walk away triumphant. I walked away whole. That distinction matters. Winning by breaking someone else leaves residue. Winning by rebuilding yourself leaves peace. I chose peace every time it was offered, even when it arrived disguised as patience and restraint. Sometimes I stand in the doorway at night, lights off, listening to the house settle. The sound feels different now. Not tense, not heavy, neutral, safe. This space no longer holds arguments or fear. It is a routine. I earned that, not through luck, through endurance. Danielle never stepped foot inside again. That wasn't punishment. It was a boundary. I learned boundaries don't require confrontation to be effective. They only require consistency. My life became quieter as a result. Less drama, less explanation, more intention. I stopped trying to be understood by people invested in misunderstanding me. I started living for alignment instead. That shift protected everything I built afterward. If someone asked me what hurt most, it wasn't losing the house. It was realizing how quickly people choose comfort over truth. That lesson stayed with me. I became slower to trust, but stronger in discernment. I stopped mistaking familiarity for loyalty. Danielle's calm cruelty taught me that love without accountability is dangerous. I don't carry that bitterness forward. I carry wisdom. Wisdom doesn't announce itself. It just changes your choices. I choose differently now. I listen to actions. I believe patterns. I value peace. Those values reshape my future quietly. I don't regret the pain. It taught me how to protect myself without becoming closed off. That balance is rare and valuable. People sometimes ask how I stayed calm through it all. The truth is I wasn't calm. I was disciplined. Calm came later. Discipline carried me through chaos. I showed up when it hurt. I paid bills when it felt unfair. I documented when I wanted to scream. I waited when I wanted closure. Discipline created outcomes emotion couldn't. Danielle underestimated that. Many do. They mistake restraint for weakness. It's the opposite. Restraint is controlled power. I didn't need to announce my strength. I applied for it. Quietly. Consistently. By the time results appeared, explanations were unnecessary. The life I built spoke fluently on my behalf. That's the kind of vindication that doesn't fade. When I look back now, the phrase that once crushed me feels small. Just a phase. Phases end. Foundations remain. I didn't rebuild to prove her wrong. I rebuilt to survive. Success followed because survival demanded structure. Danielle never showed remorse. Karma didn't require it. It simply aligned effort with outcome. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand apologies. I lived forward. Peace became my loudest statement. Being forced out taught me that ownership isn't about possession. It's about agency. I reclaimed mine step by step. Quietly. Permanently. If she ever wonders who won, the answer is simple. The person who can sleep peacefully without needing the other to lose. If this story gave you clarity, strength, or peace, subscribe. This channel is for people who don't get loud, they get free. She thought he was just a phase, but he came back stronger than ever. Face with open mouth. If you've ever been underestimated or betrayed, leave a key in the comments. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the full story of Malcolm's quiet victory.